You know, Meat Shields, when it comes to horror movies about the ocean, I feel like sharks always steal the spotlight. You got Jaws, Deep Blue Sea, Sharknado, all the classics. But what if I told you there's something worse out there? Something that even great whites are afraid of. Killer whales. And I ain't talking about my boy Shamu neither. So imagine getting trapped in the middle of the ocean with a giant pissed off orca trying to pack you up. You think you'd survive? Well, I'm here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the orca in Killer Whale. We start off with a commercial for this broke-ass SeaWorld knockoff, The World of Orca, and the star of the show, Sito the Killer, and they're trying to make it look like it's this great place to live, but really it's just a beat-up tourist trap, where the whales can barely swim around. And Sito just decided that it's time for revenge, naturally. At the park, these two trainers, Dana and Chelsea, are getting ready to close up for the night, but Chelsea decides that she wants to hang back a little and check on her girl, Sito. She says it's like the whale's been acting different ever since the owners took her baby away. So after everyone's gone, she goes down to Sito's pool and starts trying to call her over, but for some reason, the whale's just leaving her on red. So that's when Chelsea makes the dumbest choice of her life and decides to get in the water. But that's about to be her biggest mistake. Now at first, there's still no sign of the whale until suddenly Sito swims right past her, and something is not right here. And Chelsea realizes that she might have screwed up as the whole whale starts circling around until out of nowhere, Sito just grabs her legs and drags her under. And just like that, she's gone. Alright, now I guess that's what you call dinner and a show, am I right, guys? Well, anyway, it looks like Big Mama Sito just caught a body. But honestly, though, this could never be me. Because you gotta be nuts if you think I'm going in that tank with a damn killer whale inside of it. Like, I'm sorry, but this ain't Free Willy we're talking about here. They might not look as scary as something like a great white, but honestly, they're 100 times worse. Yeah, because in the wild, they literally hunt for great whites and eat them for breakfast. And you know, I looked it up. And the biggest orcas can get over 30 feet long, weigh like 12,000 pounds, and they can swim 35 miles an hour, and that's fast as boy. And that's not even the craziest part, because they're actually one of the smartest animals on the whole planet, meaning they know how to hunt in packs and use strategy. So basically, they can pretty much no-diff anything in the ocean, and that's why you never want to piss one off. So when these morons locked Sito up and took away her damn baby, yeah, it's honestly not surprising that they got smoked. Because here's the thing, orcas aren't even dangerous to people in the wild, but that's because they're in their natural habitat. They're used to swimming 100 miles a day and diving down thousands of feet. So sticking Sito in this tiny pool with nothing but blank walls and no room to swim in is basically like locking her up in freaking Arkham Asylum for no reason. And yeah, if it was me, I'd go crazy too. But if that wasn't bad enough, these idiots made her have a kid and then split them up. But orca moms don't kick their kids out when they turn 18, they stick together for life. So imagine doing all that to a 30-foot apex predator and then expecting her to come out and do a little trick? Yeah, nah, you're gonna get ripped in half. I know this girl was just a trainer and probably just wanted to help, but she knew all the stuff that was going on, so I'm sorry, but getting in the water here was just dumb. But even though orcas are definitely OP in the water, their easiest counter is just being on dry land, so I just wouldn't have gotten in the tank with Sito at all, and this could have easily been avoided straight up. But besides that, the people who own this place should give Sito back her kid and then let them go back to the wild when they're ready, and then they wouldn't have to worry about any trainers getting murked. After the intro, we jump over to this little burger joint called Slim's, where we find this girl Maddie working the late shift. It's a quiet night without much going on, so Maddie is kind of surprised when her crush, Chad, just comes strolling in the back door. They flirt a little bit and talk about the grad party he just came from, and Chad even breaks out this fancy necklace he got her as a present. Aww, what a thoughtful guy. But that's when some dude pulls up with a freaking shotgun and decides to ruin their night. They're just about to have their first kiss when bro walks in with the hammer and just points it straight in their faces. He starts yelling at them to drop their phones and makes Chad sit down at a table. Then he sends Maddie behind the counter to fill up his hat with cash, but it all goes downhill when he notices Maddie's new necklace. At first, Chad tries to stop him, but he turns around and tells him to sit back down. And then he goes back to Maddie and tells her to hand it over. But while he's distracted, Chad just freaking charges the dude and starts fighting him for the boomstick. This dude lets off a shot that barely misses Maddie's head, and Chad finally takes him to the ground. But then he just starts knocking my boy silly with the back of the shotty. So Maddie rushes over and starts fighting him for it until another shot goes off right next to her ear. but Chad ends up winning the fight and blasts the dude in the shoulder, and the guy drops Maddie's necklace as he runs out of the store. So it looks like Chad's a hero, right? But it's not over yet, because as soon as my boy turns around, this guy just spins back and frickin' annihilates him with a damn pickup truck. We then jump to a year later where we find Maddie getting ready for another shift at the same old job. It looks like her music career never really took off, and she wears hearing aids now because of the blasts. But she still has the necklace that Chad gave her before he got smoked, and that's when somebody comes knocking on her door. It's her BFF Trish, who she hasn't seen since graduation. But Trish here, she's got a pretty crazy idea. She says that she booked a trip to Thailand to help Maddie get her swagger back, and even though she's not really sure about it at first, Maddie finally agrees to go. But little do they know that Sito is just waiting to run their fade. Alright, I know a girl's trip to Thailand might sound like the move right now, but I don't really think it's the best idea. I mean, like, Maddie is obviously still traumatized over what happened, but there's one thing we gotta get out of the way first, cause let's be honest, if this dude Chad didn't throw his life away over a freaking necklace, we wouldn't even be in this situation right now. Now, I know most of us guys out there have this fantasy about how we would stop a robbery, but real talk, if you're ever getting pressed by a dude with a shotgun, just give him whatever he wants, bro, cause it's honestly not worth it. It's not like it was the freaking Hope Diamond or something, it's just some random necklace he bought for a girl he wasn't even dating. There's no way bro spent more like $200 on that thing, and even if he did, then brother, you gotta slow your roll. But even if that thing was worth $20K, I'm still not fighting somebody with a shotgun for it. I mean, you gotta be asinine. Also, this place definitely had cameras, right? And this dude wasn't even wearing a mask, gloves, or anything. The cops would have to be blind not to find him after all that. So I would just let him take the freaking necklace, then call the cops as soon as he was gone, and who knows? Maybe I'll get the necklace back and he'll get locked up. But even if not, I would rather take the loss than get clapped over something you could buy on Temu. So that could not be me at all. Now what's crazy is Maddie is still working at the same place, and at least it's not a haunted pizzeria with possessed animatronics or anything like that. But since it was never exactly her dream job anyway, I'd say now it's time to quit and find a new gig. I mean, you can't just be pulling up to the workplace every day like, yep, that's the place where my crush got hit by a truck. Like, talk about bad for your mental health, bro. So if it was me, I would say bye-bye to the burger joint and start looking for a new job where I won't get robbed again. And in the meantime, she could start a YouTube channel teaching music lessons or something like that to get her life back on track. So that would be step one. Now, the last thing she needs right now is any more surprises, but I'm not gonna lie, a trip to Thailand does sound like it might help her feel better, as long as they stay out of trouble. So I'd only agree to go under the condition that we stayed at the resort and just chilled by the pool all freaking day. You know, like, have a nice, relaxing time. But yeah, I think we already know how that one's gonna work out. So the girls hop on a plane and zip over to Thailand, and the next thing they know, they're chilling by the pool, catching a tan and sipping on some margaritas. Trish upgraded to a waterproof case so that she can keep posting selfies under any conditions. They decide to hit the beach, when Trish notices this handsome fella at the rental stand. She gets so distracted that she bumps right into this nice old lady who's selling souvenirs. But when Trish picks out these two little orcas, Maddie notices that something is up. Trish had a little surprise planned. She picked this spot so that Maddie could get a chance to meet Sito, since Trish knows she was her and Chad's favorite whale, but the idea brings up bad memories and Maddie just storms off all annoyed. She thinks orcas belong in the ocean, not a fish tank, and she's completely against spending any of their hard-earned V-Bucks to support the business. So Trish realizes that she messed up and says that they can just do something else. But by the time Maddie gets back with some fresh brewskis, she finds Trish already rizzing up the rental boy, Josh. Maddie picks up a brochure for the park and Josh chimes in that he hates the place too. And now all of a sudden Trish is over here acting like she's some kind of whale expert. Well, Maddie calls him out and says that he's not really about that life, but that's when he comes up with an idea to prove it. He says they should go back and sneak into the park after they close. That way they get to see Sito for free. So later that night, the girls meet up with Josh at the club, and after getting litty for a while, they decide that it's time to do the crime. Maddie starts having second thoughts when they get to the fence, but after pressuring her into it, they all sneak in through a hole in the fence. This place is totally empty except for that one security guard, but he's too busy watching TikToks to give a damn. So they're able to walk right past him without him noticing. That's when they get back to the Orca tank and Trish is all like, "You got this, girl," while she just stays back to keep macking it with Josh. But Maddie has no idea that she's about to witness a murder. So Maddie goes up to the glass and starts looking for Cito, but meanwhile there's this janitor cleaning up trash right near the edge of the tank. She hears these high-pitched whale sounds coming through her hearing aids, and when she looks up again, this absolutely freaking massive orca is just staring right at her. At first, she is a little nervous, but then she walks up and puts her hand right on the glass, and it's almost like Cito wants to be friends. But up above, the janitor starts reaching for some garbage floating in the water until suddenly he ends up falling straight into the tank. Maddie hears the splash and turns around just as Cito swims up to the surface, but when she looks back, all she sees is a dead body just floating behind the glass. And she immediately goes running back to her friends like, "We gotta get up out of here, folk." So they manage to dip out before the security guard can catch them, and when the guard calls it in, the boss decides that it's time for Cito to find a new home. Okay, it looks like Cito just caught this dude slipping. Well, I hope the 10 seconds of seeing her through some glass was worth it, because now these three are going to be lucky not to end up behind bars. Like, maybe I'm wrong here, but I thought the whole point of this vacation was to help Maddie relax. But I guess Trish just completely lost the plot as soon as she made eye contact with this Wish version of Justin Bieber. I mean, let's not forget that Maddie got a shotgun stuck in her face and watched her crush get absolutely obliterated with a truck right in front of her literally a year ago. So honestly, it's mad disrespectful of Trish to be flirting with random dudes when they were supposed to be here bonding. But it seems like the real reason for this trip was so Trish could post selfies and get with guys. So that's bad enough, but then these two idiots decided that they're gonna pressure Maddie into committing a crime on her first night in a foreign country. This place isn't some kind of simulation where you can just do whatever you want. It's a legit country with laws and stiff. And if you end up in jail in Thailand, good luck, buddy, cause mom ain't coming to pick you up from that one. So nah, as soon as these morons brought up the idea, that's when I would have told them to go have their little fun. I'm gonna be back at the hotel to chill and watch some Netflix. You guys go get arrested if you want. What's actually crazy is that Maddie came out here to try and clear her head, but she literally just witnessed some dude get absolutely murked by her favorite animal. So congratulations to her therapist in advance, because they're about to make bank off this chick. But when it comes to my boy the janitor, he should have never put himself in this situation in the first place. Like I mentioned before, orcas are super fast, smart, and unpredictable. So for safety reasons, janitors usually only clean up when the orcas are in a separate tank. And they would never lean over the water to grab something like that, because that's exactly how you end up falling in that motherfucker. But once that happened, the key here is not to panic, like splashing around is going to trigger the orca's chase response. So basically you just want to float in one place until someone else comes to distract it. Or you like have a clear shot for the edge, and then you just gotta hope that you don't get bodied like this dude here. But the girls' troubles aren't even over yet, because even though they got away, the place is going to have tons of cameras, and when the police see these two Americans breaking into the park at the same time as this guy got killed, that's gonna be a whole problem. So if it was me, I'm going straight back to the airport and catching the first flight back to the US of A before this situation gets any worse. The very next morning, Maddie's waking up on the beach with Trish already yapping about another surprise adventure. She's obviously a little worried about what happened last night, but the peer pressure works again. And the next thing she knows, they're going for a ride on the back of Josh's jet ski. They pull up at this weird sort of sandbar thing with the big open pool right in the middle. Looks like a pretty sick spot though, so Maddie wants to know why there's no one else out there. According to Josh, most of the locals think this place is cursed for some reason, but that just means that they have it all to themselves. Trish does not waste any time before she starts taking a couple selfies, but Josh decides to grab it and locks it inside the jet ski. So Trish goes over to Maddie and asks to borrow her phone instead, like what could possibly go wrong here? So Maddie's over here chilling on this little pizza raft while the other two start ripping all around the lagoon, but they end up crashing straight into something that sends them flying off the jet ski, and Trish accidentally drops Maddie's phone right in the water. Trish climbs up on the raft while Josh starts swimming back to the jet ski. But just as he climbs on, this massive orca tail hits the bottom and launches them into the air. That's when something drags him underwater while the girls can't do anything but watch, and he manages to escape and starts swimming for the raft, but as soon as he grabs Trish's hand, the whale pulls him back in. And this time, my boy is not getting away. So they decide to start paddling for the rocks. But then this massive shape appears right in front of them and launches a geyser of blood straight out of its blowhole. And they realize that it's the same freaking whale from back at the park. Now the girls just start freaking panicking and paddling away as fast as they can, but just as they make it to a rock, the whale grabs the rope and pulls them all the way back out. You know, if they actually survive this, I'm definitely blocking Trish's number as soon as they get home. But let's be real, because if Maddie was actually using her brain, she would've never followed these morons out here to begin with. Why are we still trusting this dude Josh after that crap he pulled last night? This guy's obviously nothing but trouble, so the last thing I'm gonna do is let him take me out to some random spot in the middle of the damn ocean. And if Trish was still insisting on going with him, I'd just say, go for it, and I'll be back at the hotel. So that was Maddie's first mistake, but once they got to this place and saw that nobody else was there, that was their last chance to turn the hell around. At first, that might seem like a good thing, right? I mean, your own private island with no other tourists. I mean, it sounds like a dream come true, but not really though. Because if you pull up at an absolutely dope spot but don't see a single local there, you got about 10 seconds to get the f out of there before something goes wrong. Now, whether it's actually cursed or not, if the locals don't go there, there's a reason. I mean, this place could have been infected with sharks or had deadly undercurrent or who knows what. So if you think I'm trusting this random dude who's not even from around here when he says it's perfectly safe, no way. We can just turn around and go straight back to the pool because I'd rather be bored than dead. But even though Trish's constant need for attention is what got them into this mess in the first place, taking away her phone was actually incredibly dumb because her selfies are the only way that anyone's gonna know where they are. Usually if you're doing something like this, smart people would let someone know where they're going and when they'll be back. Now, obviously the girls didn't do that, but posting selfies is the next best thing, because then all 850,000 of her followers would know exactly where they went, and that would make it a lot easier for them to get rescued. But as if they weren't making enough mistakes already, risking Maddie's phone just for a few more selfies when Trish had her own waterproof phone right there is so dumb that it actually pains me. Because at least if Maddie was still holding onto it, they could have used it to call for help, but now it looks like they're completely screwed, so thanks, Trish. As for this idiot Josh, the only way he could have survived that is if he went completely still and waited for the whale to get distracted. But with him down, it looks like Maddie and Trish have to figure this out on their own. Like I said before, orcas can easily one-shot you in the water, right? But if you're on dry land, there's nothing they can do. So when these two dummies were literally within arm's reach of a rock, bro, let's just jump before the whale starts pulling you back. Like, what are you waiting for? Now they're right back to where they started, but instead of panicking, I would just sit completely still until Cito got distracted again and then start paddling over slowly back to shore. And then we can figure out the rest from there. And yeah, once this is all over, I'm definitely gonna start looking for a new friendo. Well, Cito starts circling around and flies right past underneath them, and then pops her head up right next to them and just starts mogging them for a little while. But as she goes back to circling the raft, Maddie realizes that they have to swim for it. They're pretty much done either way, so Maddie grabs Trish's hands and tells her to lock in, twin. And this time they wait for the whale to pass right under before diving into the water. But at the last second, the whale noises cause some feedback in Maddie's hearing aids, and she ends up getting left behind while Trish starts booking it for the rock. Maddie notices the bag with her hearing aid batteries starts to float away, but as she tries to grab it, the whale starts coming straight for her, so she climbs back onto the raft just in time. Switching targets, the whale turns around and starts going after Trish instead, but she manages to get to the rock and climbs up before it's too late. And Maddie throws her bag over and then starts waiting for the right moment to go, but the rope accidentally falls in the water again, and this time the whale grabs it and pulls the plug out. So Maddie dives in the water and starts swimming for the rocks while the whale is closing in right behind her. And as she's climbing up, she accidentally steps right on this sea urchin that stabs her in the foot. But Trish pulls her up just as the whale almost takes her out. And after it's over, they notice that Trish has a bad cut on her leg. So they cut off a piece of Maddie's wetsuit and try to cover it up. Now once that's done, they do the same thing for Maddie's foot, but now they still have to figure out how in the hell they're gonna get out of there. As they're sitting there thinking about what to do next, they start to wonder how Cito even ended up there, and they realize that it must have something to do with the dead body in the tank. Still, Maddie says something is off, because orcas have never attacked humans in the wild before, which can only mean that Cito still thinks that she's trapped, and with the jet ski at the bottom of the water, all they've got is whatever is in Maddie's bag. So they decide to split her last piece of gum just to hold them over. They won't last very long without water, but that's when Trish remembers Maddie's phone bag, and it gives her another idea. Filling it up with her own breath, Trish explains if they give it enough time, they'll get a little water forming inside. The only downside is it's going to take hours, and they'll be lucky just to get a few drops. There's not much else they need to do besides yell for help, but there's nobody around for miles, so it looks like they are not leaving anytime soon. So the girls just kind of lay there for a while, wondering how it all went wrong, but just when it seems like they're beat, Trish hears a motor somewhere in the distance. Getting up, they see this boat on the horizon and start jumping around, waving for help, but the boat does not see them, and it ends up disappearing just a minute later. Alright, now that actually does suck. Without a phone to call for help, the boat was pretty much their only chance of getting rescued. But we can still come up with a plan in case they come back. I mean, the main problem here was that screaming and waving their arms was pretty much never gonna work. With how far away the boat was, the people on board would barely be able to see them even under perfect conditions. And with the engine running, plus all the noise from the wind and waves, there's literally no shot anyone was going to hear them either. So it might seem like there's nothing else they could do, right? But that's where you're wrong, my friend, because they just need to get creative with the supplies that they already have. Now you might be thinking, what supplies, yo? But where other people see garbage, I see possibilities. Which brings me to the gum wrapper, because that foil is actually perfect for reflecting sunlight. Yeah, it might not seem like much, but people's eyes are super sensitive to random little flashes of light, especially in places where they don't belong. And what's crazy is you can actually notice the flash from over 5 miles away. But that's not even the best part, because if you flash the light in a pattern, and that's even more eye-catching. And now you just turned a gum wrapper into your ticket out of there. Bars! But the plastic bag, the Orca clip, and even Maddie's necklace can all catch light too. So the next time a boat comes by, they should use all this random to their advantage instead of just jumping around all willy-nilly. But that brings us to another problem, because they're gonna have no idea when they're gonna see another boat, and without some water to drink, they're both gonna be looking like a dried-up SpongeBob close-up in a matter of hours. So what can they do? Well, Trish's idea was actually pretty smart, but here's the problem. Her breath isn't gonna create enough condensation to actually get them any water, but if they take this same idea and just change it up a little bit, it could still work. What they actually want to do is get a few ounces of ocean water and use that instead. Normally you can't drink salt water or you'll die, but once the water evaporates inside the bag, it separates from the salt, and then it's safe to drink. So if they use that strategy instead, they might actually get enough water to hold them over until somebody else comes by. And hopefully next time they can actually get some attention. While the girls sit there watching the boat just sail away, Sito comes cruising by just to rub it in. But now that they're stuck in a tank as well, Maddie is starting to understand why she's so angry at humans. And just then, Maddie hears the feedback in her ears again, and when they look down, they see one of Josh's freaking arms just floating in the water. So Maddie uses her bag to pull it closer and then reaches down and grabs the flashlight off his wrist. Night falls, and the girls try using the flashlight to maybe signal somebody for help. But just like before, there's nobody out there, so it looks like they're still on their own. In the morning, Maddie wakes up to the sound of Trish calling her name, and it seems like she's got something to say. But they get sidetracked when Maddie notices the plastic bag, and it looks like the plan worked, because there's actually a few drops of water built up inside, and the two girls split it like it's the tastiest drink of their lives. But there is still no sign of anyone coming to save them. They start talking about what they're gonna do when they get off this rock, and the conversation gets all emotional as Trish thanks Maddie for always being her BFF. But she's holding back a secret that's gonna end their friendship forever. Changing the subject, Trish mentions that she's hungry as hell. And that's when Maddie remembers that sea urchin that she stepped on the day before. So Trish holds onto her legs as Maddie climbs down and starts trying to break it off the rock, but then she looks over only to see the freaking whale go speeding by. Panicking, she accidentally plunges right into the water and starts scrambling to get back up. But Trish helps her get out just as Sito almost drags her away. Now on the bright side, Maddie actually got to the sea urchin and they use the lid from Chad's memorial box to smash it open. Oh, and it looks absolutely disgusting, but they'll be dead if they don't eat something soon. So they crack that bad boy open and choke it down. Now looking at Josh's memorial stone makes Maddie realize that it's finally time to say goodbye. So holding it close, she tells Josh that she's always loved him and regrets that she never said it in person. It's a big emotional moment as she lets the rock fall into the water. So I guess now she's finally ready to move on. But since they're still stuck on this rock, they're not going anywhere soon. That's when Trish chimes in, telling Maddie that Josh did love her back. But then she starts getting all weird, talking about how this trip was supposed to make things better. Confused, Maddie thinks that she's just talking about their current situation, but Trish shakes her head and says that it is much worse. Well, it turns out that Trish needed some extra V-Bucks for college, and she set the entire robbery up thinking Maddie was supposed to be off that night. But when it all went wrong, she was too ashamed to tell the truth, and that's why she disappeared for over a year. Trish says that she's regretted it ever since, but Maddie snaps back and starts letting her have it. The hearing troubles, the end of her music career, Josh getting put on a t-shirt. It's all Trish's fault. So obviously Maddie is absolutely pissed. Well, Trish keeps trying to apologize though, but there's honestly nothing she can say to make it better. And heartbroken, Maddie takes out her hearing aids and basically leaves Trish on mute. Okay, I can totally understand why Maddie is furious at Trish right now, but even though I'd be seriously tempted to push her in, they gotta work together if they're gonna get out of here. And at this point, it probably seems like the girls are out of options, right? But there's still one more idea that they haven't thought of yet, and if they can pull it off, then they're gonna be home free. Remember, Trish's phone was in a waterproof case, so if they can reach it, they can use it to call for help. Obviously, it's gonna be hella risky getting in the water with Sito, but they're dead either way if they can't get off this island. So when you look at it that way, they literally have nothing to lose. Now, for the first part of the plan, I would have totally held onto Josh's arm so we could use it as a meat shield. I know Sito's not trying to eat people, so she's not going to want the arm as food, but orcas are naturally curious and they like to play with stuff. And we already know that Sito's going after everything that splashes, so first I would take Josh's arm, wrap Maddie's shiny necklace around it to make it even more interesting, and toss it as far as I could away from the jet ski as a distraction. We're going to make Trish go for the phone since she's the one who started this whole crap, but we can still help her out if we get a little creative. Every time Sito does one of her sonar calls, Maddie gets this intense feedback in her hearing aids. But there's a way that we could actually use this to our advantage. Because you see, orcas are super sensitive to high-pitched noises. So if Maddie puts her two hearing aids close together, the sound it makes would definitely get Sito's attention. So here's how it would all go down. After Maddie throws the arm to the opposite side of the pool, Trish carefully gets in the water and swims straight at the bottom. Orcas usually like to ambush from under or behind, so if you get low, it's easier to hide. Then she can use whatever's down there as a cover to get over to the jet ski, and while up above, Maddie splashes the water or uses her hearing aids to keep Sito focused on her instead. Then all Trish has to do is grab the phone, swim straight to the nearest rock, a call for help, and they'll be out of there easy peasy. And then Maddie can just block her on everything, and as soon as she gets home and forget about this whole shit. Now, hours go by with the girls not talking to each other, and as Maddie drifts off to sleep, she starts having all these terrifying flashbacks to the night of the robbery. She wakes up again sometime later, and Trish tries to check on her, but Maddie just turns her back and gives her the cold shoulder. Now, realizing that they're not going to survive much longer, Trish starts coming up with an idea to swim for the outer circle. She decides to go for the furthest edge, giving Maddie time to reach one of the closer rocks to get to safety. But the whole time, Maddie still has her hearing aids out, so she doesn't even hear a word that Trish says. But she doesn't realize that Maddie still has no idea what the hell she's doing. By the time that Maddie realizes she's gone, Trish is already halfway to the shore. Horrified, Maddie starts yelling at Trish to come back, but Trish just smiles and keeps swimming like she's already made up her mind. Now just then they hear the whole gang getting closer, and Trish starts swimming as fast as she can as Sito starts closing in. Realizing there's no way Trish is going to make it, Maddie decides to send it and jumps straight into the water using the splash to make a distraction. And the plan works, and Sito turns around just as Trish gets to shore. But now she's going after Maddie instead. She makes it to another rock and starts climbing up, only to slip up and fall right back into the water. But she's able to get out just as Sito tries taking her freaking legs off. Meanwhile, Trish makes it to the beach without getting caught, and they're both relieved that nobody got packed up. But just when it seems like their luck couldn't get any better, they see a plane flying right over their heads. So they both start waving and yelling as loud as they can as Trish grabs a rock and writes SOS on the beach, but their hopes get crushed when the plane just keeps going without even noticing them. Trish gets so mad that she starts crashing out, but she doesn't realize that she's backing up closer and closer to the water. Knowing what's about to happen, Maddie starts yelling at her to pay attention, but Trish is too busy flipping out at the plane to hear her. And all of a sudden, Cito just blasts straight up on the shore and starts pulling her in. There is nothing Maddie can do to help as Trish gets dragged under the water until suddenly the girl gets away and starts pulling herself back to shore. But Maddie's face goes from happy to horrified because one of Trish's legs is completely missing, and after dragging herself back to the beach, she finally dies from her injuries. Alright man, I know a vacation these days costs an arm and a leg, but this is just brazy. Sorry Trish, but you actually kind of set me up for that one. Actually no, I am not sorry, because this whole damn thing was your fault in the first place. So when you lose your best friend and get one-tapped by Free Willy all in the same day, that's how you know you f***ed up. I gotta say, Maddie's a better friend than me, because I would have cut you off the minute your new boyfriend had us breaking the law. This trip was supposed to be about two best friends reconnecting and dealing with the trauma, not you dragging her along on all these sketchy adventures just so you could riz some random dude. But man, was that just scratching the surface, because it turns out you literally ruined your best friend's life over what, a couple $100? Well, it looks like karma finally came back to bite you, literally. But like, how do you get smoked by an orca while you're on dry land? That's honestly the most embarrassing part. And now that you're sleeping with the fishes, I think it's safe to say that you f***ed up. Well, Maddie just sits there heartbroken now that her best friend is gone as well, but with Trish out of the picture, it looks like she's kind of on her own. Nighttime comes around again, and that's when her hearing aids finally run out of juice. To make matters worse, the flashlight dies a few seconds later, leaving her trapped with no light or sound as this big thunderstorm starts rolling in. At least now it's raining, so Maddie finally has some water, but she turns around to see the whale just staring right at her. Now looking closer, Maddie notices a scar above Cito's eye from when the owners took her baby away, and it makes her realize that they're both just out here fighting for survival. She takes another look over at Trish, but when she looks back again, Cito is already gone. So Maddie decides that she's gonna try to swim for shore. She makes it all the way across without the whale catching up to her, then climbs all the way around the rocks until she gets to the beach. Going over to Trish, she flips her body over and leans down to say her goodbyes. But once that's all done, Maddie finally remembers Trish's waterproof phone case and decides that she's gonna try and swim down to the jet ski and see if it still works. Oh, it's gonna be a tough swim alright, but it does look like her only chance of getting out of there. There's no sign of the whale so far, and she's able to open the storage compartment and grab Trish's bag. Back on the surface, Maddie finds Trish's phone inside, and as luck would have it, it still works. So she immediately starts calling the emergency SOS, but then a few seconds later, the phone suddenly dies, leaving Maddie with no way to tell if the call actually went through. But that's when Cito comes back and starts circling right next to her. Maddie swims back down and starts looking for a place to hide. She lets out a huge gulp of air when she spots the whale, but Cito passes right by above her. And once she's gone, Maddie swims back out and she notices her cello end pin just sitting there on the bottom, but as she reaches for it, the freaking necklace gets caught on the rock and ends up getting stuck. So Maddie starts trying to get free, just as Cito comes back for the kill shot. Just when it looks like she's done for, she manages to grab the pin and jams it straight into Cito's eyeball as she passes by, which seems like it scares her off. Swimming back to the surface, she watches Cito's fin go down below the water, and then swims over and grabs the life vest. And for a while, Maddie just kind of floats there and starts dreaming about her last performance. But finally, a helicopter shows up and the rescuers lift Maddie on and start taking her back towards shore. While in her dream, she looks out at the crowd and sees that Chad is not there anymore, showing that she's finally ready to move on. Maddie just learned the most important lesson of all, which is sometimes the only way to get over your trauma is to do something even more traumatizing. Woo! Killer whale. And I mean, hey, the movie looked kind of cool. The characters, anyways, you guys gotta let me know if you would have done anything differently in today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. Check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. We post every Wednesday and Saturday, people. Come on. I'm Ben. We'll see you in the next video, and have a damn good day.